All right, good morning. My name's Tyler Dumont. I'm the Strategic Communications Administrator with the New Hampshire Department of Safety. On behalf of myself, along with Commissioner Quinn, Assistant Commissioner Edwards, and Assistant Commissioner Lavoie, I want to thank you all for being here this morning to take some time and here for the conversation as we talk about impaired driving and its impacts not only to drivers on the roads, but their families as well. This morning, we want to thank Karen Bowen for joining us. You'll be hearing from her next. She is a survivor of impaired driving. She is from Rochester, New Hampshire. You'll also be hearing from our law enforcement partners here in New Hampshire, the New Hampshire State Police. You'll also hear from Massachusetts State Police and Maine State Police as well. Impaired driving is killing people on roads across the United States. Here in New Hampshire, every year, there are dozens of deadly crashes in which drugs or alcohol are primary factors. In fact, in 2021, there were 118 people killed in crashes on New Hampshire roads, and of those crashes, nearly 70% were alcohol and or drug related. Unfortunately, some of these deadly crashes have occurred during the Thanksgiving holiday period, which ranges from Wednesday to Sunday on the week of Thanksgiving. Over the last 5 years, there have been 7 deadly crashes on New Hampshire roads during the Thanksgiving holiday period. 7 people were killed and 13 others were hurt. Impairment was a factor in 4 of the 7 crashes. In addition to those victims, the lives of family members, friends, and other grieving loved ones were changed forever. And perhaps most frustrating is this fact: impaired driving is 100% preventable. In an effort to change the trend, today we announce a joint enforcement effort with our law enforcement partners in New Hampshire and across New England. Starting Thanksgiving Eve, also known as Drinksgiving or Blackout Wednesday, we will be stepping up designated patrols looking for impaired drivers. We are urging everyone to make the right choice and refuse to drink and drive. We know that the rate of alcohol impairment among drivers involved in deadly crashes is higher at night than during the day. So make a plan. Before you have even one drink, designate a sober driver to get you home safely. If you wait until you've been drinking to make this decision, you may not make the best one. Call a taxi or rideshare. And if you do choose to drink and drive, it could be life-altering. Your temporary fun could turn into permanent consequences, as you'll hear in just a moment. At best, it could cost you an arrest or you're on your record and thousands of dollars in fines and lawyers' fees, but at worst, it could cost you and others their lives. Improving the safety of our roads is a collective responsibility. Enforcement and education are not enough. We need everyone's partnership. So please join us and make smart decisions. Don't drink and drive. If you see someone who does make that life-threatening decision, please report it to 911 immediately. I now want to welcome Karen Bowen, who is a survivor of impaired driving.
Hi, my name is Karen Bowen, and I am a victim of negligent homicide. Let me explain. February 6th at 6 a.m., my parents received a phone call from Plainville, Massachusetts. I was 12, my sister was 10. We were told my mother's sister, my aunt, was killed by a drunk driver on a head-on collision at 2 a.m. in the morning. She was coming back from a charity fundraiser where she performed and was not drinking. Aunt Elzita was one of a twin. She was 37 years old. The young man's punishment was a loss of privileges to drive in Massachusetts, which was okay with him. He had a Rhode Island driver's license. To diminish his responsibility, he sued her estate. Not only did the family have to deal with the loss, we also had to deal with the lawsuit. Um, 22 years later, at 3 a.m., September 20th, my husband and I were woken up by my parents' neighbor, who was a police officer from Hampton, New Hampshire. telling me that my mother had been killed approximately 2 a.m. as she was coming home from work. Mom, Georgiana, was only 59 years old. The young man was 23, driving a dealership vehicle where he worked. He lost his license due to speeding before the accident. He was at 3 different bars, running up a tab. He was legally drunk after the first bar, but he still got served at the next 2. For taking my mother's life, he got 3.5 years, which he did too. I prayed my children or grandchildren never had to learn the aftermath of driving drunk. My granddaughter's husband lost both his parents due to impaired driving. It tore the family apart. I know and understand what the families go through. The anger is there, the hurt, the sadness never goes away, nor the hole in the heart is never fixed. The delusion and the disbelief at the law, the injustice of it all, the fact that court cases are one-sided on the defendant's side. It is hard to learn the most powerful question, can I be the voice? Can I do this? Yes. I found strength in God and my family and friends to get through the tough times. It's been 37 years since I lost my mother, and it haunts me every day. Things always remind me of her. When you lose a loved one to a violent crime, it never goes away. A sound, the smell, newscasts bring you right back to the loss all over again. Understand one fact, it never goes away, the pain never stops. You learn to take each day as it comes. How did alcohol affect my life? My mother had to work the late shift, and I was left with my father and sister. I was being taken care of by a father who was drunk every night. My sister stole alcohol from my father's cabinet, and she was drunk, and I put her to bed. Mom would come home at 2 o'clock in the morning, wake me up, and I helped her drag my father upstairs. That was my child life. The loss of a life, not one but 2, whose lives mattered. I do not judge this as an accident because defendants have a choice to stop driving impaired with all the advertisements that go on and they know the laws. You can no longer think of it as an accident. Knowing that impaired driving, you have a choice to get behind the wheel or not. This is not an accident. I hope my words help. I have one last thing to say. When you see that cross alongside the road, those lives matter. Say a prayer for the family. Thank you.
So the additional patrols and efforts that you're going to see over the next week really would not be possible without collaboration between the federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. So on behalf of the New Hampshire Office of Highway Safety, we want to thank all of the participating agencies that are going to be working with us on these increased patrols over the next week during this Thanksgiving holiday period. One of those partners is the New Hampshire State Police, and I want to welcome Lieutenant Joe Ronke from Troop A.
Thank you. On behalf of the Department of Safety and the Division of State Police, I want to wish everybody a happy and healthy holiday season. These upcoming days are certainly a cause for celebration, as we're afforded a little bit extra time to spend with our friends, families, and loved ones. It's no secret that at the same time, these are also some of the busiest traveling days in our calendar year. Those two factors combined can be problematic, as our troopers and local law enforcement agencies work diligently to protect the innocent motoring public from the dangers of impaired driving. In these upcoming days, if you do choose to travel, we ask you to take some certain precautions. Simply plan ahead. Give yourself plenty of time to get from point A to point B. Don't rush. Don't crowd others on the drive over to where you're going. If you do choose to drink, please designate a driver ahead of time. Troopers are working in concert with our local partners and surrounding states to eradicate the problem of impaired driving. Again, if you choose to travel, please do so safely, and we want you to enjoy the holiday season in a safe fashion. Thank you.
The efforts to keep people safe on the roads extend across our state borders, and that's why we are including our partners from both Massachusetts and Maine in the conversation today. And on that note, I want to welcome Captain Downey from the Massachusetts State Police.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to be here. Karen, thank you for sharing your story of profound loss. We will continue to work as hard as we can so that your story does not have to be someone else's story. During Thanksgiving week, millions of Americans will hit the roads to spend time with family and friends. It's one of the busiest travel times of the year, and unfortunately, that also means it can increase the risk of crashes. The Massachusetts State Police is teaming up with our local police and neighboring state police partners to keep our residents and visitors safe on our roadways during the holiday season. We will be deploying additional patrols over the next week, focusing on identifying impaired, dangerous, and distracted drivers who are creating hazards and potentially causing crashes on our highways. Last year, we lost 33 lives in Massachusetts on the roadways during the month of November, and 284 people were seriously injured just in that month alone. That's too many. Young adults aged 21 to 25 were the highest represented age group for fatalities, and ages 24 to 35 were the highest represented age group for serious injury. People in the prime of their lives were most affected by crashes. Nationwide, statistics show that impaired drivers cause over 31% of fatal crashes. Drinking and driving is a risk no one should take. The consequences of drunk driving and driving under the influence of drugs can be life-altering. So, we ask that you plan ahead for a safe celebration. Surviving your Thanksgiving drive can be as simple as just making good decisions. Obey the speed limit. Wear your seatbelt. Don't text and drive. Always drive 100% sober, or designate a sober driver to get you where you need to go. This can be as easy as calling a taxi or a rideshare service. If it's your turn to be the designated driver, take your job seriously and don't drink or use drugs. Even one alcoholic beverage can be one too many. And if you see a dangerous driver on the roadway, please call 911. Getting home safe to your loved ones is always worth it. Thank you, and please enjoy a safe and happy holiday season.
Thank you, Captain. Next is Specialist Allen from the Maine State Police.
Good morning. As I was just introduced, I'm Seth Allen. I'm a specialist with the Maine State Police, along with Trooper JMO. So I'd like to echo what's already been said by New Hampshire and Massachusetts as well. This is a very deadly weekend on Maine roads as well. Just last year, we had 3 fatalities, one of which was alcohol-related on our Thanksgiving weekend. If you're driving this weekend, take your time, slow down, plan for inclement weather. If you're the DD, be the DD. That means no drinks. Take your job seriously, make sure everybody gets home safe. If you are out on the roadway driving, you see somebody who's driving dangerously, may be impaired, please call 911. That could be the call that saves somebody's life. If you're driving on the roadways in Maine, New England, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, make sure that you plan for inclement weather. Take your time, wear your seatbelt, don't drive distracted, just drive. Thank you.
So again, just want to thank our partners from the New Hampshire State Police, Massachusetts State Police, Maine State Police, and Seabrook, New Hampshire Police that is here as well, in addition to our survivor, Karen. Thank you for being here and sharing your story. That's all we have for our statements this morning, but we're happy to take questions. Yeah, so the question was about the crash in Portsmouth last year, and such an unfortunate incident right around the holiday season, and certainly that is a factor in terms of any deadly crash that involves impairment or drugs and alcohol. Is part of the reason why we're having this conversation. We can tell you that the numbers really every year they continue to seemingly go up. We've at least been tracking that, and crashes like that are part of why we're having this conversation today. We're trying to connect with people ahead of time, trying to encourage people to make the right decision before they go out. That's correct, at least for this particular effort. The saturation patrols continue kind of regularly. We do them throughout the year, but this week in particular, we're focusing from Wednesday through Sunday in the Seacoast area. Here in New Hampshire, anyway. I'm going to let Lieutenant Ronke sort of answer about the resources and what it's going to look like when drivers are out there on the roadways.
In addition to the regularly assigned troopers, we do have other troopers that are working on a fund-granted operation where their sole objective is to go out, identify and eradicate impaired drivers. Here in Troop A is what I can speak towards, and we have 5 troopers that are going to be dedicated to that effort solely. The times of operation for those troopers working is going to be scattered throughout the late evening and throughout the night and early morning. So you can expect to see a heightened presence of law enforcement on the highways of New Hampshire. Thank you.
Anything else? Yeah, so happy to share whatever numbers we can regards to Thanksgiving week. We do have some of those pulled. The best outcome here is that we have 0 crashes, right? And that we have 0 fatalities regarding alcohol or drugs or impairment overall. If we have 0 arrests and no DUI arrests, then that means we did our job in terms of getting the message out and encouraging people to make the smart decision. But if you don't make that smart decision, just know that all of these, the law enforcement behind me, our teams are going to be out there and looking for those drivers who decide to drive impaired. Good. Thanks all. Appreciate you coming today.